Oh, hello. I was going to let that play a little bit longer. How are you doing? Welcome to the Freeman Perspective. Tonight, we are talking solutions. We've had a number of people on our show, and I'm going to recap some of the thoughts that we had with them, some of the interesting things that we have covered. But I think the most important thing, and to me, I think most people aren't catching the whole picture here because we like to focus on politics, education, and money, right? We think that these are the things that will save humanity from the turmoil it's in at this time. But what I've come to recognize, and what I'm trying to show to all of you, is that there is a global ritual being performed around us. One of the most important things involved with this ritual is the idea that it must be of your own free will and accord. This is a Masonic phrase that they use as they enter the temple, because you must enter the temple of your own free will and accord. So what I've noticed is that there is a whole load of people out there working on making sure that we do evil of our own free will and accord, right? So to give you some examples of the ritual being performed, let's go ahead and just start with Y2K. I'd like to jump right into a clip here. Y2K was a massive ritual set up around the world, which, is showing you that this is a global conspiracy. Now, many of the patriots of America, they want to go back to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all of those happy founding fathers that were so wondrous and for some reason led us astray. But what I see is this conspiracy that is actually, well, technically I shouldn't be considered a conspiracy theorist. I believe I am an alternative historian. So now I'm trying to give you history from a different point of view. And yes, it includes magic and extraterrestrials. So Shag, if you want to go ahead and run that first Y2K clip, and we'll talk about this a little bit.
O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666.
In a year prior, as the pentagram hung over Bethlehem, they released the Columba doves. Jean-Michel Jarre played the 12 Dreams of the Sun, while the Freemasons were wishing they could cap the Great Pyramid with gold. And well, perhaps they burnt the river Styx.
They're going to try to do in 2 minutes. The sun, as the Earth spins around, the sun is actually traveling across the sky at about a mile every 2.5 seconds. They are going to light the Thames on fire. It is called a river of fire, as they have branded it.
And the Bee Gees grooved in Sunrise, Florida. And Clinton announced,
"It is a rising sun."
And the brothers everywhere ignited their phalluses.
Midnight has come to Paris.
So every goddess deserves a phallus.
Okay, hold it right there. All right, now think of this. Now, those were all different countries, each doing a ritual. And in this ritual, they worship the sun, and they worship this goddess, okay? So if you take into consideration that, well, one, we've got the Freemason pyramid on the dollar bill, which I have a picture of somewhere, showing a work in progress. This is can you see that? Well, pull out a dollar bill, have a look at it, okay? The pyramid on the dollar bill is a symbol of a work in progress, and it says God smiles on our work, right? And this pyramid was put on the dollar by an occultist who was involved with the government. People think that they came here running away from religious persecution, but the truth of the matter is that our leaders belong to things like the Hell's Fire Club, and the Bohemian Club. But there's something bigger and weirder going on than just these rituals. Egyptian Flight 990 was leaving to go to the pyramids. It left out of LaGuardia, and instead of flying straight to the pyramids, it turned around and it went to Patrick Air Force Base and Edwards Air Force Base. Now, both of these bases are big on research and design and reverse engineering of extraterrestrial craft. Well, along the way, they picked up 33 Egyptian military, a very significant number, although I don't know if that was part of the ritual, and a lead scientist of Jet Propulsion's laboratory. Then this flight, now never before in either of these bases' history has a jetliner, an airliner, passenger liner, ever landed at either one of these military bases. But for some reason on this flight, it was necessary. And they flew back, they picked up these 33 Egyptian military, they picked up the JP&L scientist, and then headed back for the Giza Plateau, right? This is prior to the capping of the Great Pyramid with gold. This plane all of a sudden took a nosedive, and the pilot seemed to get control of it again, and then it took a nosedive and crashed into the ocean. They announced that it was pilot suicide, even though the pilot called out a Muslim prayer, because this was before they were terrorists, right? So these are rituals that are going on, but they also include high technology from these ancients that we don't yet understand. There's a reason they needed to cap the Great Pyramid with gold. There's a reason they're digging under the Great Pyramids and found Osiris's tomb, right? And we showed that on a few shows. Okay, well, let's, if you notice that England was burning the River Styx, or, you know, the River Thames, they had to do the explosions at the same rate as the sun is traveling, because this is all ritual. And then Bill Clinton gets up and says, it is a rising sun. Let's watch that whole speech. Show that speech, Shag. A Mason would say that he is a perfect ashlar, a perfect spiritual being inhabiting a material body. And the cube is used in magic. The magician's altar was a double cube, a powerful symbol of control. So you see here the double cube of Chevron. Of course, have to see three-dimensionally. Or perhaps the cube of Gateway, or the game cube. Shall we say Night in the Cube? Or how about the cube of Fox? Or the cube of Cisco? Hey, hold it right there real quick, Shaq. I got these clips together today. Well, I did a week's worth of editing in an hour. So I missed this first one. But okay, now the cube. All right, once again, we're looking at this ritual. And we see that the corporate logos all have the ritual involved, right? There's a reason Shell is a shell, and Texaco is a pentagram. Target, the sun sign. Walmart, again, the pentagram. If you look here... No, I got it. Yeah, thanks. You flash onto this card here, Shag. I want to show you. Now, all of this goes back to a Hebrew mysticism. I have a feeling that was going to be hard to see. What we got here is the Empress, okay, which is the third card in the tarot. And this is why we get so many trinities involved with the goddess, right? So if you can see below her, I don't know if you can see that, that's a pentagram below her, because this is the symbol of the goddess. Okay, so let's look at Cisco. Here we have the Cisco logo. Okay, I feel like that guy on the. Okay. All right, the Cisco cube, okay, the cube is a symbol of man perfected, as was stated in the video. But if you look at the Cisco cube, you'll see that you can pull out ISIS, right? You see the IS, right? And then you also have the oblong square, which is right here. And the oblong square is the footing position that the initiates use when they're standing before the worshipful master. And this is why the oblong square is the symbol of Bank of America, Dell, and a number of others, okay? Well then, finally, if you look also, the CO at the top here is actually a crescent moon with the sun rising. Now this is a normal, here we go back. If you can see that same symbol on the back of this book, right? This book is The Occult Conspiracy, right? Which outlines all of the occultism going on through our leaders. So if we're going to continue trying to battle these people through political or economic means, it's not going to work. Because what is happening here is we're being trained into evil. I know, it's strange, but it's true. The most important thing is that they get us of our own free will and accord. Now, my friend said to me, well, what about Lincoln? You know, he seemed to be a good guy. And I like to believe that maybe there was a good president, but so far I haven't found that to be the case. They are all involved in this ritual, and they are all planning. But what is it for? That's the question. Why all the goddess worship? What's this ISIS? Why is it on our logos? And what are they up to? But absolutely, you'll find that even Abraham Lincoln, I had all these pages marked, was an occultist. He was even a psychic and a member of the Rosicrucians. Lincoln was known for his psychic interests and had become involved in the practice of spiritualism. References were made in newspapers, and he had coded references to his psychic powers, clairvoyance, and the ability to heal the sick. Now, of course, these occultic powers are not bad in their own right, but we must recognize that they're there, right? There have been a great many people in American history who most of us don't know about. I mean, do you know who designed the American flag? I mean, if you watch the Freeman perspective, of course, you'll know that it was a man known as the Professor, who was an occultist, and he designed our American flag. It was never ratified through Congress. We just had him put it on there. So why is it red, white, and blue with pentagrams? Let's find out. Red, white, and blue are the symbols of Venus, okay? The pentagram, symbol of the goddess. And Cisco, as you see, Isis with the moon and the crescent, the cube, and the oblong square. Look at the symbol for the Air Force. It's a winged disc with an oblong square and a cube. I mean, you know, it just goes on and on. You could try picking these out, you know, individually, and it will, you could probably, you know, say, well, so they're called Jack in the Box, you know. But once you realize that it's all referring to a knight in a cube, it starts to make sense. Okay, let's try that clip again.
Aliens are in charge.
I managed to find a
pyramid
crop circle for every corporate logo.
Now the eye symbolizes the great architect of the universe to the Freemasons. So they use this symbol on the dollar bill to denote a work in progress. The eye floating above the pyramid is a symbol of this work. It was only when they capped the Great Pyramid that the work was completed. They failed in capping the Great Pyramid with gold. USA Today even read, Muslims stopped the Freemasons from capping the Great Pyramid with gold. Well, they call the apex the stone that the builders refused. Well, it said in the Bible, let him who have ears to hear listen. This means there's a coded message. Let's see if you can figure out the coded message in this speech.
Oh, as the framers were crafting our Constitution, Benjamin Franklin was often seen in Independence Hall, looking at a painting of the sun low on the horizon. When at long last the Constitution finally was signed, Mr. Franklin said, "I have often wondered whether that sun was rising or setting. Today I have the happiness to know it is a rising sun." Well, 2 centuries later, we know the sun will always rise on America as long as each new generation lights the fire of freedom. Our children are ready. So again, the torch is passed to a new century of young Americans.
Okay. So now, does that seem like something a normal person would say in announcing, like, you know, and then they made the sun rise in the west. They had a light so bright there in D.C. that from Europe you could see the sun rising in the west, which relates to Horus. And this, I mean, this is confusing, and I definitely don't know what all of this means just yet. But when I do, I'll be famous, I'll tell you what. Once I figure out this Venus connection. But you see, so much has been hidden from us that we are in the dark kind of feeling around. Now, I've managed to pull together the corporate logos and the goddess Columbia and explain their meanings as far as I can tell so far, you know. And for some reason, this all relates back to Lucifer, and it relates back to ancient astronauts. And we'll get more to that in a minute. Let's jump on to 911. Hey, symbolism there. Jack Blood had me on talking about this, and let's cover that a little bit. Just this is a quick clip, Shag. Let me show that real fast. 911. Shock and awe. These are religious ceremonies.
Our enemies have made clear the danger they pose to our security.
All right. Just had to have a little shot of 911 in there. Okay, so consider this, all right? I predicted 911 to the day. How did I do that? Well, I used a little bit of politics and a little bit of Kabbalism, and I mixed the two together. I knew W would be president because W has a significance. And I knew that this would occur on 911 because I knew 911 had significance. So consider this. On 911, which is Tuesday, American Flight 11 crashed into the Twin Towers, okay? Christening these twin obelisks with blood, with 92 passengers. 9 plus 2 equals 11. I'm starting to sound like Tex Mars. Okay, but just notice, you know, 911 with Flight 11, 92 equaling 11, and the very fact that the Twin Towers were laid in a Masonic ceremony on 911, 1941. Or was that the foundation stone of the Pentagon was 1941, 911. So the Pentagon was hit, the Twin Towers were hit. Both of these buildings, or all three of these buildings, were begun on 911. George H.W., which H.W. means the Emperor of the Fallen Angels, announced there will be a new world order for the first time publicly on 911. And this is where I came up with the date. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious. Then, you know, airline flight 77, which 7 is another magical number, and then having double digits, 77, hits the Pentagon, which is on the 77th meridian, right? And this goes back to the twins of Gemini and is associated with Mercury, the god of trade and commerce, who is also the god of magic, and where you get the word hermetic, because it's all based on Hermes, which goes back to Thoth of the Egyptians, and is also connected with Apollo, who is connected with Lucifer. Whew. I tell you, go back and start watching Battlestar Galactica again and start noticing the names and what's going on with there. But show this picture of Bush here real quick.
September the 11th.
Okay, notice the W.
The young man who had the world at his
VW
feet came home from
behind
Stanford
it.
for a visit.
Now, this
He
is
told his
a
dad,
symbol that
"I just
the
don't
Brotherhood
feel like I'm doing
uses,
something that
okay?
matters.
And it's been used
I want to serve
by
my country.
Hitler. It's been
I
used
want to
by
protect
Philip
our land
66.
from
I've explained
terrorists
this
should
a
I
few
join the
times on the
Marines."
show. 66 is the
When his
number of the
father asked him
fallen
if there was some
angels.
other way to serve,
It's the number of
Ryan
Lucifer, if you
replied
want to
that he
put it
felt a
that way.
special obligation to step
But crossing the 2 6, okay, in Hebrew, 6 is V. So 66 becomes W. All right, and then when you cross the two V's, making 666, you see the number of the beast right there behind our president. Is it coincidence? I don't know. Of course it's not. There's too many things going on here. So if this is okay, you can get him off the screen. This is a public ritual being performed in front of us. And part of this ritual is that they got to tell us what they're doing, so they continue to show us. But for some reason, all of this goes back to the goddess. Now, if you look at the Olympic symbol, now who made the 5 rings? Anyone? Hitler, yes. Hitler put those 5 rings on our Olympics, believe it or not. Now, Hitler was a master magician. And part of magician's work is to make you react in a proper fashion. And they've got 2 goals in mind. One is to have you looking over here while they're doing what they need to do here. And the other is to make sure that your emotional state is in the right place at the right time, right? So Hitler would make sure that everybody was compacted together at nighttime and get them in a religious frenzy. He set up all of his marching soldiers in such a fashion that it brought about these emotions, and then even made sure that he had a huge wall of light behind him showing his illumination. Now, Hitler didn't just kill off Jewish people, he also killed off Freemasons and gypsies. To me, he was getting rid of any of the other magicians. So when you look at the Olympics and you'll see the 5 rings, and it's usually, I've been watching it on NBC, which is the peacock. These are both the same symbol. Okay, the phoenix is a symbol of the goddess, which is the peacock in modern times because it has the eye. Okay, and we'll later find out that this goddess is related to this eye. So when you see that peacock sitting there and then you see the 5 rings, these are both symbols of Venus. And then just watch the rest of the commercials. You're going to see a square. You're going to see an oblong square. You're going to see a pentagram. You're going to see a winged disc. You're going to see a V. These are all further symbols. Now just watch them as they go. I watched them, but I was kind of fearful to show them on here because I would keep getting in trouble for copyright. But I give it another example. 24. You know, this NSA show, the CIA founded 24. 24 in Texas shows up on 42, right? So you got your 66 again. And 42 has a pentagram in it, right? But 42 is also Columbia Broadcasting, which is the eye. So just watching 24 and 42, you get the pentagram and the eye, right? So you got the 66, the pentagram, and the eye, all in one place, one time. Same with the Olympics, okay? We just can't escape this thing. So let's jump ahead and check out this goddess stuff real quick.
This be the Madonna? A lunar deity passed down through time, known as the Triple Goddess, symbolized by the Trinity and the Phoenix. Could Isis, goddess of mysteries, goddess of magic, be America's Columbia? Few even realize that we have a goddess. Yet there's Columbia Broadcasting, Columbia Records, Columbia Sportswear, the University Columbia, and the Space Shuttle Columbia. Our capital is the District of Columbia. But who is this enigmatic goddess? Our Lady Liberty, Columbia.
Okay, throughout time, these goddesses have been known as the Eye Goddess. And like I say, once I figure this out, I'll be famous. All right, but we've got Inanna, Ishtar, Venus, Minerva, Athena, all the same goddess, all being represented here. The olive tree in the branch. In the Bible, she was known as Asherah, right, which was later translated to the word grove. The grove, Asherah, Athena, Ishtar, Inanna. We need to know what the heck this is all about, my friends. Because now, show this next part. This goes back to a god Baphomet. And this was one who the Templars worshipped.
Baphomet, whom the Templars were accused of worshipping, is a goat-headed deity, being formed of both male and female principles, with the caduceus of Mercury for its phallus. One arm points up and one down. This is the symbol of the ancient alchemists, representing nature as a balance of dark and light. The very principle of Mercury, as above, so below. But there's one aspect of the goddess we haven't discovered. She's symbolized by an owl. In ancient Babylon, or Athena, Minerva, and yes, Isis. Our capital is surrounded by an owl. Mazda is symbolized by an owl. And in Austin, we have our own special owl. So could it be that our brothers at Bohemian Grove aren't worshipping Molech, but worshipping Columbia? But they're not talking.
So, yes, I had a big point of contention with me and Alex on the whole Molech thing. Because I find that, all the symbolism does go back to the goddess. And the Bohemian Grove could be the Bohemian Asherah, which is Ishtar, which is Inanna, which is Venus, right? Who is Lucifer. God, this all gets so confusing. Okay, check this out. There were ancient rituals to this goddess, and they involved ritual prostitution, and they would do it in a grove, and this is where this would occur. The god El, or Lord, and Asherah, or grove, are known to be the genetic creators of humankind. Because as far as I can tell, as far as I know of what's going on, is that in our ancient past, there was a genetic manipulation program that went on with extraterrestrials and the people of Earth. I know this is the hardest one to swallow. So I try to stick to just, the stuff that's right in front of our faces. As if you look, now, another name for El was Baal. Okay, this was the Canaanite version of it, Baal. So when we're talking about Canaanite deities and their worship of Baal and Asherah, or Anat, she has so many names. She was known as the goddess of 1,000 names, so don't be confused by her many names. Well, we got the cannonballs, right? The cannibals. Canaan worship Baal, right? And it's always been cannibal worship. Even the worship of Jesus is worship of the Son and worship of ritual cannibalism. You do you not eat of the flesh and drink of the blood of Jesus? It's cannibalism. Okay? These rituals would go on in the high places of Moab. And when we look to the shock and awe campaign, I covered this a couple of times, and now I've got guys from the X-Files quoting me, so that's kind of cool. Dean Haglund was talking with Alex Jones, and he's all talking like he knew what he was talking about, because he started quoting the Freeman. Yeah. Well, so the shock and awe was the attack that we had on Baghdad. Shock and awe is a play on a Hebrew word, Shekinah, which is the feminine version of God. It's the Hebrew word for feminine version of God. Saddam Hussein claimed that he was Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated, and he had statues built of himself as Nebuchadnezzar. And then we attacked Nebuchadnezzar, or Saddam, with the shock and awe campaign using the Moab, right? Now, I just told you Anat and Baal were worshipped in the high places of Moab. So what we are seeing, again, is ritual. And when we went in for the shock and awe campaign, they stormed the temple of Nana, which is the male version of Inanna, and stole all of the sacred relics there. Okay, so what's up with that? Now, Baal is always shown, or has been portrayed in conflict with Leviathan of the Bible, and we get back to the fish people. If you guys watch enough of my stuff, you know I'm all about the fish people, and I'm trying to figure this all out. But they would have child sacrifice to this goddess who is worshipped as an owl. So now you understand Bohemian Grove a little bit more. But the serpent was more subtle than any beast in the field, and he said unto the woman, "Ye shall not eat of every tree in that garden." The Bible. Okay, a lot of people like to stray away from the Bible. I think it's a great research tool. It has a lot of fact. Here, I think you can see that one without me. Has a lot of fact in here and a lot of very interesting things if you can figure out what they mean, because it wasn't written for us, it was written for them. So then we come now to Genesis. And Genesis, we're going to try and recognize that we're talking about the creation of a working race through genetic manipulation. All of the members of Skull and Bones take on epithets that relate to revelations. But the number of Skull and Bones is 322, right? 322 goes back to Genesis, because they're all about the Alpha and the Omega. So they start with, you enter with the Genesis and you exit from Revelations. So that George W., his name in Skull and Bones is temporary, which I found very interesting, but it is a word used in Revelations, a prominent word. And then his father, George H.W., which is Magog, which is another, when Magog comes in to attack in Revelations. Genesis 3:22. We just start to look. Where is 3:22? And the Lord said, "Behold, the man has become as one of us." Okay? These guys, he says, now to know good and evil, man has become one of us, one of the gods, and to know good and evil. And let's cast him out, or he may take of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Okay, this has been one of their goals forever, is to live forever. Now, if you don't think that there were other gods and that, the Bible's only speaking of one God, then you turn to Psalm 82, and it says to Yahweh standing before the council of the mighty gods, All right, plural, gods. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty gods, and he says how ye have just ruled unjustly, and that ye are wicked, and are merely like men. And ye are gods, but all of ye are children of the Most High, and ye shall die like gods and fall like the one of the princes. So even in the Bible, there's admittance that there were other gods, not just this one God. And well, let's run another clip there, Shag, because, or let me just set this up real quick, because this one kind of jumps a little bit. It's my belief that these guys are the priesthood of the Nephilim, or the fallen angels, and that we live, right now, us live in an amazing moment as the Nephilim return and try to take over our planet. And they've already got their people in place. They've always been there. The Nephilim didn't just leave and leave us here to our own devices. They left these occultists in charge. And they've taught these occultists that they can live forever, they can manifest into the real world, they can vanish. All of this is in American history. There have been people within American history that have vanished into thin air. In the signing of the Declaration of Independence, there was a man, and it's all written down in the notes there, in the minutes, that he stood up and he gave this great speech, and everybody said, yeah, and they signed the Declaration, and then they turned to thank that man, and he had vanished from this locked room. And all of that's right there in the minutes of, you can go research that yourself. Like I say, it's alternative history. Okay. So and then we prelim that a little bit, because this is going to jump to flying saucers right now and the connections between the NSA and the CIA. On July 27, 1952, a number of flying saucers were picked up on radar, flying over our nation's capital. A mere 3 weeks later, America established what was known as the National Security Agency, sometimes known as no such agency. It's the world's largest intelligence gathering community. They're credited with creating the internet and electromagnetic tape.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
And in a flying saucer crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. 3 months later, America established the Central Intelligence Agency. Known for its use of mind-altering technologies, under MKUltra, the CIA conducted memory experiments on thousands of unknowing people. They used LSD and other drugs, brainwashing, hypnosis, and many other mind control techniques. The CIA was established in a building known as the Tomb at Yale University. The Tomb is also the temple of the Skull and Bones Society. Our president is absolutely a member. Let's see, I was looking at the seventh trumpet being announced here. I had some reason I was looking at that. Let me just see here real quick. It had a relation to what Michael Tessarian was talking to us about, and how they, let me just read here for a minute. Oh, I was looking at Revelation 9:11, wasn't I? So Revelation 9:11, and they had kings over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has the name Apollyon, or Apollo. That was to go back up there in the whole 911 spiel that I was talking about, because you see, they relate all these things to the Bible, and that's where a lot of people we're being led astray. Because once again, I got to tell you, this is all of our own free will and accord. I myself, don't have a religion. I talked a little bit about Tex Mars, and he was wishing that I was a Christian. But I can't yet place my faith into Christianity because I see the same stuff there. Jesus was the son, and it's cannibal ritualism, ritual cannibalism again. So these brothers, they go through these secret societies, they learn their little tricks and trades and what they can do, and they swear these unholy oaths. Now, before you walk into a temple, you don't know a thing, right? Unless you're like me and you study and want to know what they're doing before they do it. But let me just give you a couple of the oaths that these guys swear to not reveal to you that they are worshiping a different deity, whatever that might mean. This is all a very big question, but my point that I want to just keep driving home is that we're dealing with a spiritual war here and not a political war. Because if you're trying to follow the politics, you're going to get very confused. I mean, very confused. People are going, well, wait a minute, we put Saddam in power, and now we're trying to take him out, it's fishy. Well, no, it's ritual. It's all ritual. There was a reason Saddam was found in a cave. And if you start studying Nebuchadnezzar, you'll understand why he needed to be found in a cave. So these guys, they go in, they enter the lodge of their own free will and accord, and then they swear, binding myself under no less penalty than to have my throat cut across and my tongue ripped out by its roots and buried in the rough sands of the sea at low water mark, where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours, should I ever knowingly and willingly violate this, my solemn obligation, oath and obligation as an entered apprentice mason. Now that's just the first one, right? And they talk about the worship of Venus in their lodge, and the Twin Towers, of course, are prominent within a lodge. They call them Jachin and Boaz, and you can even see them not on that tarot deck. Well, Jachin and Boaz, the black and white towers. So then you move on a little bit, and you get into the lodge a little deeper. Now, what I found interesting was when you're an entered apprentice Freemason, they'll tell you that this is the Bible is your rule and guide to life. But after the second degree, the Bible's never mentioned again. Once again, I'm not religious, but there's something very interesting here, and I might become religious by the time I finish understanding all this. So then they say, binding myself under no less penalty than to have my left breast torn open, my heart plucked out and given as a prey to the wild beasts of the field and the fowls of the air, should I ever knowing or willingly violate this, my solemn oath and obligation as a fellow cop. Right? And, this book was written 200 years ago, right? This guy was coming out. He was a worshipful master of the Freemasons, and he was like, holy God, we're worshiping Satan. And so he wrote a whole book exposing it all. That was in the 1800s, so none of this is any new. Nothing's new. The only thing that we have new now is that we're starting to understand the extraterrestrial connection in this whole thing. I had Tex Mars on here, and we covered a little bit of this. Go ahead and run that Tex Mars clip there, Shag. And let's look at the secret signs and gestures. So when is a handshake more than just a handshake? When it's there to signify an allegiance to a secret society. When it's there as a symbol to let other members know that you're with them. All through the ages, secret societies have used secret gestures and signs to allow themselves to know one another, to let you know just who's in this pack. So when is a wave more than just a wave? when it's meant to signify something to those in the know, those who belong to the secret societies. Now, most of you think these are guys that just dress up in silly outfits and ride around in little scooters. They may seem innocuous enough, but Tex Mars has compiled all the information to let us know the secret hidden codes of the Illuminati and to show us that it's not all fun and games. Well, welcome, Tex.
Well, thank you very much, Freeman. It's great to be with you.
It is great to have
And
you.
I know you're having a great impact in this area. In fact, on the internet and so forth, all throughout America, people are beginning to talk about the Freeman perspective, so I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, 1,000 pictures is worth what?
Well, yeah, a magnitude. And I do have over 1,000 pictures in my new book, Codex Magica. Many of them are incredible pictures from ancient manuals and textbooks of the occult, going all the way back to pagan mystery Babylon. But of course, we have the incredible numbers of politicians, financiers, bankers, entertainers, probably the elite of this world who we have, well, let's just face it, Freeman, we have caught them in what is basically an occult ritual, and it's sort of a we're in your face type of thing.
Absolutely.
They're
I think there was a little bit more. I'm not sure. I don't know if I just cut it there or not. Like I say, I was doing a week's worth of editing in an hour. There are secret signs and gestures that these brotherhoods use to allow themselves to know one another in the dark as well as in the light. They use them in front of us. Seinfeld is a big one that I enjoyed showing off. Now, I tried to show this Tex Mars episode while I was away. I don't know if you guys knew I was in Tucson, but I tried to show the Tex Mars show, and they wouldn't air it because it's got the Simpsons giving the hand signals at the beginning, and right now I'm looking into all the legalities of whether or not I can play that or not. Otherwise, I'll just have to cut the Simpsons out and take it at that. So hopefully you'll get to see that Tex Mars show again, and I will have him on again March 7th, so I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to cover goddess worship and try to get a little deeper into the rituals that are going on around us. Okay, so you're starting to see that this is a ritual and that there is a little more to this than just trying to get more money here. Because think about money now. We had Galen Ross on the show, right? And we showed that money was nothing more than an illusion. It's absolutely has no value whatsoever except for the faith that people have in it. And so there again, the dollar bill was crafted by the Templars. It was given to humanity, and what did it do? It took away your focus. No longer did we focus on the divine and gathering. You didn't thank God when a deer came your way so that you could shoot it and eat it. You now thank McDonald's that you can go there and give them a Templar note. It took all of the faith away from our own power, our own divine power, and put it into the hands of these magicians, because a dollar bill is nothing more than a pantacle. It's nothing more than a talisman. It's a spell cast upon humanity, and it will not save us. So, I hope to get to the end of this. I only have 10 minutes left to recognize that we don't need any more capitalists. We need more people that are trying to be friends of the world. So let's go ahead and go to Tessarian.
You're out of clips on that tape. I'm not getting nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Tessarian stuff didn't come on the tape, huh?
It's ended. No more counter, no nothing. It's nothing.
Weird.
Blank. So.
What a bummer. Okay.
Don't forget the hype Zach art show, but other than that.
Right. Oh, we lost the Tessarian clip. That's a bummer. Okay, well, Michael Tessarian came on, and I'll make sure that we see this again. He came on, and we started talking about this genetic crossbreeding going on and how it made humanity schizoid and crazy. But his main point, or at least for me, for the ritual aspect of the whole thing, he mentioned that, wow, we don't have the life on Mars stuff or nothing? All right, well, I'm going to have to do the show again. I'll work out another one for you guys. That they must tell us what they're going to do. This is part of the ritual. If it's not of our own free will and accord, then it doesn't work. You can't force a person to be evil. You can only convince them to be evil. So murder is evil, okay? So war is evil. There has never been a world war, and I know this is hard for especially people that fought in any war to accept, that we are not to kill. I mean, they have to convince you to kill. They have to make you believe it's the right thing to do. And so they create Russia and they create America, and then they tell you to kill each other in the middle. But the Masons themselves, they aren't killing one another. Here, I'll give you a little story real quick. It's all ritual. Okay, so here is Joseph Brant, who is a Freemason. He was a Mohawk Indian, and he was a Mason from England, a Mohawk, and he was captured by the American troops, and then he gave the high sign of a Mason in distress, and they brought him to safe harbor and sent him back to England. Okay, they're not killing one another, they're killing you, and they're making you kill. And then there's sexual perversion. A lot of this has to do with sex, and sex is a very magical act and a very divine act, but when you bring it into perversion, you can use it as an evil magic. And this is where Madonna and Britney Spears come into the picture, and back to their goddess worship. Well, I'm kind of bummed out about not having those other clips, but oh well. The universe is more than we... You got the Tessarian. All right, cue up Tessarian. Let's try and get this in the last 5 minutes. Didn't think I'd messed up that bad.
In the world do not want us to know about this genetic hybridization program that is about 30 to 50,000 years ago. They do not want to explain to us how that splicing of our DNA and the crossing of this alien DNA with the human DNA is the absolute reason for not only man's schizophrenic nature, and when I mean that, I mean it in the true sense of the word, meaning that he is a bipolar being who has both a good and an evil side. Now that fact, as you said in your introduction, Freeman, so well, is the central issue of our times. Why is this phenomenon of evil in existence? We've had everyone from Gene Roddenberry to Rod Serling to top genetic scientists trying to answer it. We've had the greatest theologians from the time of Plato. I mean, nobody has come up with a proper answer. It's always put down to that man is just resolving this through time. There's nothing he can do about it. He's a butcher, he's a murderer, he's a sadist, he's an unjusted person. He's misogynist, he butchers the earth, he kills animals. He does untold damage to his own self, right? He does untold damage to nature. He's literally like cutting the branch on which he sits himself. All of these things are just put down to, well, it's Mother Nature's blunder. I guess we'll just work it out, down the line. What nonsense.
Absolutely.
Inside of us, and so naturally, if you're schizophrenic and bipolar inside and your thinking is all twisted, which it is in our world, naturally, your societies will then be twisted, broken, fragmented, antithetical. And then the powers that be, these guys sitting at the top of the power pyramid, can easily then create endless more, divisions. Yeah. Reds against the blues, the gays for the straights.
Right.
The black against the white, the Catholic against the Protestant, the Jew against the Arab. My God, they can do that divide and rule strategy because man is already fundamentally divided within.
Right.
And we then play along with it and watch our sons get murdered on the fields of battle, and all sorts of other injustices take place on a daily level to us because man is himself fundamentally schizoid.
Okay, cut it there, Shax. We're running out of time. So, it's Tessarian's belief that due to this genetic manipulation that we ended up in the position that we're in. Now, Shag, will you fast forward past the life on Mars? Now, that was NASA, head of NASA, Daniel Golden, announcing that there is life on Mars. And go to the Raelian clip where I'm talking with Dr. Richard Guerrero. I'll try to conclude this. So, the schizoid man, yes. We are caught up in this ritual. The ritual is involving these genetic elites. Now, there's a reason that there's a pure bloodline traveling through all of our leaders, and I believe that probably, a good reason to think that they have all this goddess worship going on around us is because the bloodline of the Nephilim is passed through the women. The Holy Grail, as it were,
A
Daniel's.
cult leader from Quebec was questioned by members of the U.S. Congress
Go
today
for it.
as they grapple with the moral and ethical issues surrounding human cloning. The witness, known as Rael, believes humans were created from the DNA of aliens. But he was invited to testify because, along with his bizarre beliefs, he also claims he has the technology to clone a human being. As Adrian Arsenault reports, he says he's ready to use it.
We will have eternal life. You can have eternal life if cloning is allowed, and it's very important not to block it.
What if it doesn't work, though?
It will work.
Maybe, and that's the problem. U.S. lawmakers are now scrambling to catch up with the science.
Please rise and raise your right hand.
Assembling an eclectic group of bioethicists, animal cloning experts, and the controversial.
There should have been a clip there with Dr. Guerrero, but I think we're running out of
Should
time.
human cloning be banned?
Those that say ban it, those would not be the Neil Armstrongs that would fly us to the moon.
Dr. Zavo says he has a list of 700 people who've signed up. Rael can do one better. Says he and his 55,000 UFO-believing followers have a secret lab, a stockpile of money, and the remains of a 10-month-old baby whose parents want to clone.
It will be done anyway, somewhere, someday, as, thankfully, nothing can stop science.
I'm very, very pleased to announce that the first baby clone is born.
Okay, good enough. Well, you're going to have to fast forward past Richard Guerrero to get to the little ending there. Okay. So you see, we're back at the beginning again, the Alpha and Omega. Here we are, right back with the extraterrestrials standing before Congress announcing that they're cloning humans and transmitting your soul into that body. Now, when I talked with Dr. Richard Guerrero, who is a Raelian, he said, well, humans don't have a soul. Well, I have to strongly disagree. My life is filled with divine coincidences, divine synchronicities that assure me that there's something beyond the third dimension. And all of the ritual that I see going on through our leaders assures me that there's something beyond the third dimension. So I'm pretty much safe in that bet. So let me leave you with a final thought from the Urantia book, which was a book written back in 1955, which is known as the Blue Book. And true liberty is the associate of the genuine self-respect. False liberty is the consort of self-admiration. True liberty is self-control. False liberty, the assumption of false self-assertion. All right, not enough time. Go ahead and play. You guys come and check out Zach's art show. It's going to be really interesting. A lot of conspiracy theory going on. And go ahead and hit the music there, Shag. And, yeah. Let's be friends, people.
Why am I changing? Why do people get complacent with the things they're told? World disasters, they come and go.
Hello. Welcome to the Freeman Perspective. Well, have you ever felt like perhaps you were born into captivity? That the world around you has been constructed just to keep you in a quagmire of confusion and never having any sense of relief, place, or your whole just feeling good? Well, it's true. We have been born into captivity. We've been born into a system which we don't understand, that we're asked to continually play a part in, even though we disagree. And we have to, or else we starve, right? Well, how did we get here? How is it that we ended up in such a mess that pretty much at this point I don't see the way out? I'm having a feeling that we're going to have to wait for the great catastrophe to occur before anyone changes course, and we're going to just kind of keep going on as we're going on. And really the whole crux behind this thing, the driving force, of course, is the magic spell, money. What is money? Where does it come from? Why do we have it? What's it used for? Well, people tell me, well, it's gold. It's gold. You know, we have to have some sort of form of currency, and well, gold's too heavy to carry around, so we get these paper bills. Well, what is gold? I mean, really, what do we do with gold? We go dig it out of the earth and put it in a vault? So we take it from one cave, put it into another cave? Is this, I don't see the purpose. I don't understand the point. These things like gold and diamonds and, well, all the precious metals and gems, they don't have any real value except for what we give to them, until you start to look into high technology. Now, if you're looking to be an intergalactic traveler, then absolutely gold and diamonds are a very crucial factor, very important thing. So here we find ourselves running. I mean, when I look at civilization, I see it as this. I see a man and a woman running on a treadmill to protect a baby, as others are trying to jump into this gilded cage that's riding upon a circus railroad cart, being pulled off the edge of a cliff by a bunch of men in suits with blinders. That's what I see. I see this as just all of us running in place being dragged off a cliff. You know, it's coming. This end is coming. This whole system that we have formed our foundation on is coming quickly to an end. And as we see it, it's a completely manufactured and contrived system. We're dealing with ideas of the Federal Reserve and the IRS, and these are just made up. They have no real foundation whatsoever, except for that we all agree that they exist. So we find ourselves now put in a position where now we've got some new presidential candidates coming our way, and we're all excited because things might change. Well, I thought I might take this time to talk to you a little bit about how I see things. Well, as if that's not what I do. Because for me, it's such a different picture. For me, back in the era of Clinton, back in the late 90s, as I'm watching these antics, as I'm watching what I call apathy dipsticks, such things as the Oklahoma City bombing, Waco, there was even the Heaven's Gate cult, and you know, and it was as if the government was trying to see whether or not they could murder a bunch of people, tell you they were a cult, and get away with it. And I was certainly astounded with Waco when they made the made-for-TV movie, The Truth About Waco, and in the credits is Janet Reno in the State Department. I mean, the very murderers that killed all these people. And yeah, I call them murderers. I watched as they murdered those people. And I was disgusted. And I was flabbergasted that there wasn't more results from the American public. And as I say, these apathy dipsticks. And so as we went down the line, each year in October, they kept coming forth this Homeland Security Act, what we now know as the Patriot Act. And this was all during the Clinton era. In the late 90s, we've got this bill coming up in October, and it comes up every October. Every October, everybody goes, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. There's no way I'm voting for such a thing. That is the most unconstitutional and just un-American thing I could possibly think of, this Homeland Security, unifying all of the secret services with the intelligence agencies and everybody having one collective database to able to manipulate, monitor, and control all of us. No way.
no one would vote for it. So each year as this came about, I was watching also what they were doing to Bill Clinton. Now, when they brought Bill Clinton up on this Homeland, or on his Monica Lewinsky scandal, of course we all knew this was a contrived scandal. We all knew that they were trying to put their smoke and mirrors in front of us to keep us from looking at other things. But what maybe we didn't consider was that this was psychological warfare. That the very fact of bringing this man, the president, up in front of us and having him turn purple while they discussed insertions of cigars in secretaries and whatnot, and after Clinton's numerous bathroom breaks and his just being crushed right there in front of all of us. This is psychological warfare. This is what warriors do, what warlords do. Before they can destroy a nation, first they must destroy your heart. First they must destroy you. And so having our president being just ridiculed in front of the American public over such things, and knowing full well that JFK had affairs, or many of the other presidents had affairs. Hell, Giuliani's dressing up as a woman, you know. This was not something that was necessary. This was not something that we should be bringing about in an impeachable offense and having all of it, you know, showed in such a dramatic fashion. But there was a point to it, and there was a purpose to it, and the purpose was psychological warfare, to destroy our ideal of the man, the president. So, taking this into mind, I decided, well, okay, what's the next step? What's the next logical step? And I said, well, they need to railroad a president into office. Because then we start to lose faith in the system itself, right? Now we've discredited the man, let's discredit the system. And lo and behold, I hear of this W coming to power. And at that time, I was really getting deeper and deeper into corporate logos and starting to understand how those all fit together, how it was that all the Freemasons were founders of these corporations like McDonald's, RCA, Target, Walmart, and how each of their logos had a place within the Masonic ritual. Each one signified a perspective within the ritual. And so as I went through all of the corporate logos, we had Texaco's pentagram and Shell's shell, and these were symbols of Venus, and I saw the Target symbol as a sun sign, and the canted square as a symbol representing the circumambulation around the altar of the Masons. Each and every one of them fit into this Masonic score. So when I got to Phillips 66, I thought, well, okay, that shouldn't be too difficult to discern. Let's break out the Magician's Dictionary and have a look. 66 just happens to be the number of the great work, yes, in which you can see displayed proudly behind me. The great work, yes, I find it not so great. It was also the number of the fallen angels, or the quillipothic powers, which are equated to excrement. So I can't help but chuckle that W means excrement. And and I take it one step further as a God joke and find that there was a Bush, a Dick, and a Colin running the country, and they were all phallus worshippers, and well, I don't know. So when I saw the W, and I recognized that 66 equated to W in Kabbalistic gematria, which Freemasonry is based on Kabbalism, and therefore Hebrew. And within Hebrew, you have the letter 6 equaling V. So 6, V, V. And then I happened to notice, well, wait a minute, the VW logo isn't 3 V's, it's 2 V's interlaced. So that's showing me once again this number of the quillipoth, or the excrement, the 66, the Antichrist, the W. Even when you cross those 2 V's, making 3 V's, of course, being 666 in Hebrew gematria. So Hitler put the 666 on his war machine, the Volkswagen. Now you say, well, Hitler didn't build the Volkswagen. Well, obviously not, but the symbolism was clear. And these are all a large esoteric order that rules nations. And, once you start to dig into that, that's when you start to get a little more into what I talk about. And so now, as I saw that the excrement, the W, was getting ready to be announced as a running candidate, I said, well, he'll be the one. This will be the guy they railroad into office. And so when they did, and they railroaded him through Jeb Bush in Florida, I used to say, no, you guys are missing the point. This is psychological warfare. This is the continuation of what they did to Clinton. So the fact that they're showing you that Jeb Bush forced W into office is supposed to make you mad. This is the whole point of the thing. And so it wasn't Jeb Bush that railroaded the W into office. It's these secret society Kabbalistic orders that are doing such things. Well, once they had railroaded the W into office, I knew this would be the year. And as I was watching throughout the Clinton era for this October date for the Homeland Security Act. And when they railroaded W into office, I said, this is the year. This is the year they'll do it. I analyzed the situation, and I considered that, well, they're going to need about 2 weeks of a public reaction time for a major event to cause them to change their minds and actually vote for this Homeland Security Act. And so as I looked at the dates, 9/15, somewhere in the middle of the month of November or September, they're going to need a major terrorist attack. So knowing that these guys are ceremonial magicians and that they are stuck to these ritual dates, I picked 9/11, just clearly on the fact that George H.W. Bush had announced the New World Order publicly for the first time on 9/11, 1990. And lo and behold, I have a whole line of people at my door on 911 going, how did you know? Well, it's simple, you know. Once you realize who these people are, then it's quite obvious what they're willing to do. And if you're watching what they're trying to fulfill, then you know what steps that they need to take to fulfill it. So now everybody's like, well, Freeman, give us another one. Come on, what's next? I'm like, God, this is so inconsequential. You don't need a next. You should just now know that you are being lied to and that this is a whole contrivance. And the whole point of me talking to you about this brotherhood is not so that we can go out and hang them in the streets. That is not my goal whatsoever. My goal is not to point out to you the bad guy. And as I talk to you about all of these things, I do not want you to think that the Masons are all bad guys. This is not a case of bad guy versus good guy. This is a case of systems being used against you. So, as we start to uncover this thing and understand that it is this particular group in charge of America, that it's this one faction of people that have kept the system going, then we start to question what it is that they're truly after. Now, if we take this a step further and you do want to start to plot and decide what they might do next, then let's look at what they want. I'll give you a little challenge, and you could even maybe do it now, hit pause on the video, or wait till after the show, or do it while you're multitasking with me. But go over and check your web. Go to your web search engine, whichever one you choose, and type in Freemasonry chip. Just CHIP, Freemasonry chip, and hit that enter button. And what you're going to see here is a whole list of Freemasonic lodges. And these aren't encoded in any way. They're straightforward Freemason lodges around the nation who are promoting the CHIP program. Very curious. Now, most of us don't want to agree to a CHIP program. Most of us don't want to be embedded in a CHIP program. And as Fox News told us, they can change and erase the information inside that chip. Who wants that? Yeah. So now we're facing, as they start to move this idea forward, and as of May this year, they need to institute this Real ID Act. Now, they're not going to force it on us just yet, because, well, of course, everybody's against it, just as they were all against the Homeland Security Act back before 9/11. So what do you do to propose and bring this to the forefront? Now, they're going to require by May that all of the driver's licenses be in compliance with the Real ID standards. but they're not going to unify the system just yet. And what we're also finding is that this brotherhood has a timeline. And this timeline is critical in the esoteric type of situations and in understanding what's coming and what's to come. So, to bring forth a chip to get the public to accept this, they need another major event, right? Another excuse. And what I see is that, well, you know, to look at it just plain and bluntly is a plague would be the best possible solution for them to pass this type of thing. Well, it's occurring already in the UK. They have what they're calling the norovirus, and reports are saying that thousands are dropping dead and that they're having a media blackout on this whole thing, but that they have mass graves of people dying off from virus. If we've watched this situation long enough, we've seen that pretty much everything gets instituted first in the UK and then over here. You know, they had the cameras full on watching them with an open, full monitoring system before we really accepted ours. We had plenty of cameras, but not the full board system in place. So, would they do that? You think they care? They care not a bit. They care not a bit for your lives. What they care about is this system. What they care about is putting forth their agenda. And their agenda is not laid within these simple foundations that we believe in, like money or politics or education. These are all just smoke and mirrors to keep us all preoccupied. You think Ron Paul's not a ruse? Controlled opposition, I say. He's there just to make you mad. Especially, you know, he keeps you all occupied going, well, they're not talking about Ron Paul. Well, of course not. You know, they want you all mad about that. And all of these systems that have been put in place are there just as smoke and mirrors to keep you lost in this quagmire, never focusing on what was truly important, which is life, the tribe, the family. This is what is truly important, the feeding of one another, and the loving, the caring, the nurturing. But we're all lost in this money spell. And so instead of thinking, well, how can we make the world a better place, we think, well, how can I get enough money to make the world a better place? And so we stay within the system. And in this whole good guy, bad guy scenario, the one thing that doesn't change is the system that they're within. You know, he's still going out and robbing the bank for gold. Don't understand. So as we are being just guided forward through this system using money as the carrot in front of us to tell us, well, just keep chasing it a little bit longer and you'll make it, you know, eventually you'll have this money and you can make a difference. Well, meanwhile, they're building deep underground military bases and seed vaults in Norway, and governments are preparing for some major catastrophes. People are reporting UFOs over Lake Travis and Stephenville. The world's not as sane as all of that. There's way more going on than this simple political economic system. And they know this, and this is the thing, is that these secret societies have passed down this knowledge, at least in part. I'll say that, you know, they did hire Manly P. Hall to try to understand what the heck was going on with all of this, because they weren't too sure themselves anymore, and this is the Freemasons I'm discussing. They didn't really know what all of this was about, why they had put pentagrams in the street plans of D.C., and what the whole owl and pyramid in the street plans meant, and all this, that, and the other. They're like, well, you know. But it's been this ancient knowledge passed down through the ages, and as many revisionists have been starting to understand that history goes back much further than we accept it. Now, that whole concept of history not going back any further than, say, 5000 BC is a contrivance that has come about by a Freemason. It was Colonel Weiss, Colonel Howard Weiss, the Freemason, who went in and had his assistant go break down the wall in the king's chamber and paint Khufu's name in there to give it the date of 3500 BC. Now in college, they'll teach you that this was a fraud. With the History Channel, they'll tell you it's truth. So, you know, very curious. So now we are trapped in this spell of money, and we all need it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I just came back from the Mayans, and they're telling me, well, yeah, we need some money. Can you help try and they want to buy back some of their native lands and try and get back some of their sacred sites. Certainly, I can't live without money. I've spent more money this week than I did the whole trip I was gone. Just on nothing, too, on nothing. God, if I didn't have to pay rent, you know, I could have at least something every month, but no, you know, we don't get that. And it's not going to get any better, this stimulus act that they're telling us about, you know, oh, well, we'll give you $300 and $600 back from the IRS. It'll be cool. Yeah, right. I mean, what's that? $600. I mean, that's nothing. That's no help at all. So, well, and just to add to that, I am a domestic product. So if you want to spend your money domestically, yeah. So what are we to do? We're definitely not going to escape this system. There's no way that we're going to break free from the money spell, because everybody's in on it, and everybody's trying to get up on it, and everybody wants a piece of the pie. And I really have been watching the American public, and I see that we like to wait until things are really so bad before we react. And that way we can react in anger, and it's much easier. And this is exactly what they want from you. Don't act now. No, everything's fine right now. You know, it might get better. You got Ron Paul hanging in the wings. So go ahead, just plod on. Just plod on. You know, things just might get better. And it's some weird delusion, because, I mean, you know, it's not gotten any better ever. It just keeps getting worse. Everything gets more expensive, and pretty soon we'll have a $6 soda, and then what will we do? So we're conditioned now to wait and to boil and to be angry. And then we get the programming like V for Vendetta tell you, well, go and blow up a building, that'll help things. I can't help but laugh at this stuff, you know, because really none of this is gonna help whatsoever. They have always trained us in the conditioning and the idea that we must fight for peace. You know, look at the American Revolution. We fought for peace. Slaughtered a bunch of natives and killed a bunch of people. And guess what? It was Masons on both sides, and they weren't hurting one another. They got stories in their Bible going, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. If you're a Mason, the British Masons don't kill you. It's all good. Just go, oh, Lord, my God, will no one help this widow's son? And you're all in the clear. You can try that in a courtroom, you know. So it's a contrivance, okay? So I'll tell you what. Let's do a little quiz. I want to do a little quiz. You guys want to put the phone number up on the screen? You guys want to have a little fun? All right, let's take a little quiz. Well, my friends, you know, you guys should be exempt from this quiz unless you weren't listening. But what I want from you right now is to tell me who designed the American flag. I got a couple other quiz questions for you as well. But right now we'll stick with who designed the American flag. Now, as I tell you, these guys are magicians. I tell you that what they need from us is our free will agreement. That phone's not lighting up. Don't you know your American history? They need our free will commitment to this thing, and this is why they would do major events like 9/11 and have us give our free will agreement. Say, oh yeah, sure, bring on Homeland Security, no problem. And at the same time, the spell they folded inside of the money, the very fact that you can take the 5 to the 100 and see the 911 scenario from beginning to end is another spell that has forced us into agreement, even though we didn't see it consciously. All right, so
Do you know who designed the American flag?
Yeah, was it Calvin Klein's great-great-grandfather?
Ha! Well, you know, curiously enough, his name was never recorded. He was only known by his pseudonym.
The Professor.
You're absolutely correct. Give that man $100. But you won't get it from this show. This show is a no-budget show.
Hey, man, we missed you at the metaphysical group meeting last night, Freeman.
No, you people got to call me and say, Freeman, it's Wednesday, because I don't function in this reality, you know. So I was really hoping somebody was going to say, hey, Freeman, it's Wednesday, and the third Wednesday already. How could that be? I haven't paid rent yet.
I told you, man. I called you right before.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I called you, I think on Tuesday or something.
Hey, wait, you won the Masonic ring from this question. You should be exempt. All right, let's check. Thank you, Ed. All right, hello.
Hey, and the professor being, of course, suspected to be the good man Lorenzo Ricci himself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you know the story of Lorenzo Ricci?
No.
That goes back, actually, this whole thing goes back to a book that I read that takes you back to about the 14th century, and it was called The Society of Jesus, who became the Jesuits.
Yes.
And through time, this guy Lorenzo Ricci was one of the black popes, and you know about the black popes and all that. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lorenzo Ricci, he gets himself in trouble in Europe, and there is a death that takes place, and the Illuminati and all these guys, they do these deaths and have burials, and they're big state events, and yet what these people do is they disappear. Well, Lorenzo Ricci disappeared to America, and he's the guy who is suspected to be the so-called professor who was also present when the Declaration of Independence was being written up and all these things were taking place. Right. And he was in the back of the room while this was going on, overseeing everything that was going on, and it said that even out of all the people who were involved in this then, there was only probably a couple of people, George Washington, our forefather, being one of them, to have the knowledge of who he was. Goes on and on and on and on. There's a book out called Rulers of Evil. Greatest book I've ever read that ties all this stuff that goes back to about the actual beginning to the 12th century.
Right.
And it brings it all forward, and it just brings you right back how the Revolutionary War was manipulated by what's called the Freemasons. The Civil War was manipulated, but just on and on and on and on and on. And people, you've got to wake up, get away from these TV shows that they're all reruns right now. So take the time to go read a book and learn something. Yeah. Hey, man, I appreciate your show, and I think you're doing a hell of a job.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you're a great call. You see? It's all out there. You know, none of this is wild conspiracy theory. None of this is anything that's like way outside the box. The idea that these Freemasons have been controlling our reality for so long has been out in front of us, and even now we have House Resolution 33, which admits it all and says, yeah, you know, look what the wonderful Freemasons have done for us. And the problem, the issue here is the fact that we don't know what their belief systems are. Now here they keep running into the presidency. We've had over half of our presidents belong to this singular fraternity, and yet we don't know what they think. We don't know what they believe. Shit, half of them don't know what they believe. Hello.
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 How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Right. What's your show about?
Well, do you know where the name America comes from?
I believe so.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me?
The word America comes from the United States of America.
Well, why did they call it that?
Oh, you told me.
Okay.
Enlighten me.
All right. The concept of America has come to us in the strangest thing. Now, just recently at the Library of Congress, they've released this map. It came from France. I had some notes on it, but I don't think I have them here in front of me. The Library of Congress just displayed a map, an ancient map, 500 years old, which has America on it. And supposedly, America wasn't found just yet. Obviously, Columbus hadn't come across. So they were, well, why did they name it America? Here it is on the map saying America. And most will believe and say that America is named after Amerigo Vespucci. Now, this is due to some monk that said, well, they must have named it after Amerigo. Actually, he didn't even say that. He questioned it. It's interesting that they would name it after Amerigo, and why did they call it America instead of Amerigo? And so, in this questioning, people went, oh, okay, there's our solution, there's our answer, that's easy, it's pat, it's no problem. And this also then conceals the true roots of the word America. Now, what it was is that the Templars were looking for a star. The Templars had connected with the Mandeans, who were connected with the Essenes. And this knowledge came down of a star that they were to follow to their promised land, their new Atlantis. And this star they called Murica. And so it was when the Templars followed Murica over to this land that this land became known as America. Has nothing to do with Amerigo Vespucci, but the Templars in every way and facet. Hello.
Hey man, where were you yesterday? At the meeting?
It was yesterday. I don't know. Come on, move into the here and now. In the here and now, we're looking at a picture that is dire. We're in a position now where we're being so set up, and we're all just going along with it. And the true reason is that we don't know what else to do. It's like, well, if I stop, I starve. I got to keep running. I got to keep going. If I stop, I starve. I won't have a roof over my head. And this is pretty much the truth. Not completely the truth, however, because there is this new realm that those of us in the poor tribe are starting to learn. And that is, well, one, we're a tribe. We have found security in this tribe. We find security, happiness, and hope just in the simple acts of feeding one another and taking care of one another. The family unit, same thing. We find just this happiness. And if there isn't happiness within the family union, it's usually money. That's the problem. This money, of course, is a contrivance. It's thrown at us. It's a spell. It's nothing real, and yet it totally dominates our existence. So it's true that if one of us, one or two of us, starts to break away, which many of us have, I'm one of those, many of us have wandered away from this system and said, okay, this just isn't working for me, and I'm not willing to do the evil deeds that's required in order to make myself rich. I'm not going to sell babies. I'm not going to blow up people. I'm not going to shoot things. And we try and maybe find and fabricate our way into a system that might get us paid in a way that we find moral, just. But at the same time, we watch how this system just is eating up the planet, eating up everybody's livelihoods, eating up everybody's life. And so even on this deepest level, we can't participate. Not if we have a conscience. Not if we know what this is all about. And so we find ourselves going, well, what do we do? and truthfully, it's been said over and over on this show a few times, and there's been others that have stated that the real way, the real path that's within us is within us and not without, and that we actually have the natural way of existing, and that all of this has been placed upon that and is being used to manipulate that system, so that we are now all scattered and isolated, trying to find our way in this evil system, and we cannot unify because we don't have a solution. And the solution is not so practical.
And the solution is not outlined in some sort of resolution or legislation or anywhere except for within all of us. And so, yeah, some of us are starting to break away, but the more and more of us that start to break away, and truthfully, the only reason I bring up these secret societies and their manipulation of reality and the manufacturing of our very lives is so that you can have an excuse to wander away from it all, to have an excuse to go away. And then what I hope to instill in you is a foundation of the synchronistic, coincidental, miraculous life that is waiting for all of us to bring it about into fruition. It's there. It just needs to live, and we all need to live within it. And so as I destroy this world, or at least that's my hope, is to just cast it away and then rebuild in this new foundation, which is the true synchronistic path that we all contain within us. Let's go ahead and check some of these calls. Howdy, how are you doing?
Hey, what plague were you talking about? What is the actual plague over in the UK and all that you were talking about?
The news report said it was the norovirus, N-O-R-O virus.
What does it actually do?
Huh?
What does it actually do to like your body and all that?
There's a total blackout on it. That's as much as I got out of the whole thing, except for that there were people dropping dead a lot. And that they, some were saying it might be the H5N1 avian flu. So there were still questions as to where and what was going on with all that. And they were curious as to how it would spread after the holiday seasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's crazy over in the UK. The Muslims have actually taken hold over in London and Europe and all that area, and have really caused a lot of problems over there for Christians and anybody that's not of Muslim faith. That they're making it. I mean, they've made it to where Christians can't go to churches anymore. That they're scared for their lives to even go to a church or even say that they're a Christian.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the Muslim Islamic faith is actually getting very strong there, to where they're trying to make it just like in Iran or Iraq, that the Islam faith is the actual law there, and they're doing it, but you never hear about it on the news. I know people personally that have gone over there, and people that live in London, and they say flat out, this is going on. And if us as free people in a free country...
Wait, what country did he live in?
No, for us.
Oh, us?
For us.
You're calling us free?
The people that live in quote-unquote a free country and are free people, quote-unquote, according to what our Constitution says
we got those quotes in there, because I'm not
nowadays
free.
It's not, but I mean, according to our Constitution, we're free people and all.
You mean those Masonic documents we try to lay our foundations on?
If we think as people that that's not going to come to this country, then we're idiots, man. We're sitting there looking at it saying, no, look at them, the poor people. It's like, man, this is going to happen right to us also. It's spreading worldwide. It's not going to stay in one little town over in some Egypt and just sit there and smolder. No, it's like a wildfire in California.
All right, well, let's talk about that for a minute. Oh, religion. All these isms and ologies, they're that's another difficult one. Because now these are all obviously generational mind programming. I mean, you ask a Christian or a Muslim why they believe what they believe, and it's because their parents told them to believe it, right? And then this is all based back down the line, and then we've got all of our faith based in these books. Difficult thing. I mean, I hear all these terms, left, right, liberal, fascist, progressive, whatever. I don't know what any of those mean. I'm still trying to figure out what 401k is. But these ideas, these concepts, these isms, these ideologies that we all cling to have been handed to you to keep the strife going. And so I know that this is difficult for religious people to understand, and honestly, I see more brainwashing going on in religion than anywhere else. And so on that same note, I try to offer, even in any different type of creed, and from the Christian perspective, we've got the idea that Jesus said that you could perform miracles, that you could walk on water, that if you need the money for the tax man, go fishing. You know, these ideas are the ones that I'm trying to promote. The very simple do unto others as they would have do unto you. And that one rule should just take care of everything. But of course, it's not that simple, is it? Because we have all these belief systems that are brought into this whole thing, and it's not one simple belief system. And now we believe that we have us and them, and we're talking about America versus England. They're no different, you know. We got the reptiles over there and the fish people over here, or if you want to look at it as the Freemasons are in charge there, the Freemasons are in charge here, or if you want to look at it that W's the son of the CIA and Blair's MI6 and Putin's KGB. I mean, there is no nations anymore. That's all just contrivance for you to keep yourself isolated and occupied with this. There's no such thing, and so we have to start to break away from this, and we can't wait until the critical factor. We can't wait until they drop the bomb, because that's what they want from you. That's exactly what they want, is for you to wait and then react. And instead, we can just use our own intention and start to manufacture a new paradigm, one that we don't even fully understand, one that's not going to be outlined and databased in legislation, one that's not covered by Congress or these Masonic documents that we hold so in reverence. It will be based on simple, pure love. And there is enough of us out here that agree to all of this, that once we get these monsters out of the picture, and I don't mean to go and slaughter them, I mean start to ignore them, start to forget this, stop paying your landlord, stop doing all of the things that involve finances, stop investing, stop all of this madness, and just start to live. Plain and simply. Now, this isn't going to do away with progress. This won't, because the human has to create. It has no choice in this manner. We create. We love to create. We love to nurture. We love to take care of things, and we love to do things in this manner. So, there is more going on. And as I'm saying that, as they're watching this major solar eruptions going on, which are about to hit their maximum again, and as we start to move into the possibility of Planet X arriving in the next year, and you know, whether or not we believe this, what we do see is them readying for some major catastrophe. And so all of this stuff is going to be completely meaningless as soon as the Earth turns on its crust and you're sitting in the South Pole. You know, mammoths have been flash frozen with food in their mouths. This is not something that has not occurred before. This has gone on before. It happens. And as we watch, they're all readying for such an event while we're all just busy blabbing away about who's more sinister. Is it Hillary or Barack or, you know? I'm like, wait a minute, are you asking me if it's the witch, the Mormon, or the Dick Cheney's cousin, you know? Come on. These people are not real, and Ron Paul is controlled opposition. This whole system, the idea that 911 made you angry, it was supposed to. You know, they knew that there would be a certain faction of people that would just never agree that our government was capable of doing such a thing, and then there would be those of us that are like, isn't it blatantly obvious? I mean, come on, free fall speed, little, you know, explosions coming out of the building. Isn't this quite obvious? And so they knew this schism would be created out of this event. They understand how we work. And so now we're fighting each other again instead of fighting really, we don't want to fight the New World Order. None of us really wants to fight, do we? I don't think any of us truly wants to go out and be in that mess. And if you do, then you've simply been watching too much television, and maybe once you get in a real firefight, you'll change your mind. Because once you're out there, it's horrible. I've got friends in the military. I know what they're going through, and it's awful. I'll try another call. You guys been hanging on there for a little while. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right.
You got a fantastic show, man. I watch you every time you're on, and I think this thing in England with that new plague they've got, that's probably something that's being tested because England is a very controlled society.
Yeah.
They're probably testing it there, and they'll probably use it here.
There's no doubts. I mean, in my opinion, just no doubts on this whole thing. That's a perfect ploy for them. We've watched as they lost a bunch of flu viruses around the nation. You know, we've been watching as they've been setting us up. We see all the billboards and everywhere saying, get vaccinated, the flu scare. I mean, it's always the psychological warfare first, right?
And when you get some idiot like we got here, Bloodbath Bush in the White House here, you know, anything can happen at any time.
That's right.
He doesn't even have to know about it. In fact,
he probably
doesn't know about most of it.
No, that man barely has wits.
You can tell by listening to him talk. He got about a 30 to 40 IQ. The man is not even. He probably can't even read or write.
I would agree with that. I would love to see his handwriting.
I would. They said a few days ago he sent somebody a letter, and I thought, well, when did that dirty rascal learn how to? If he can't read or talk, how can he write? You know?
Yeah.
Hey, you got a great show going, man.
Well, thank you very much.
Keep it up, and I watch you all the time. I'm a 68-year-old retired man. Hey, listen to this. I'll tell you one more little tidbit before I go. About 2 years after Bloodbath Bush got in there, I retired. Since I retired, that's been about 5.5, 6 years ago. Since I retired, my retirement income has increased 10%. Can you imagine? But the dollar has fell 50%, and the cost of living has went up 30 or 40%. I'm minus 80.
Right.
What are we going to do here?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with that big 10% raise, man?
No. We're not getting out of that.
And you know, I'm in a lot better shape than I mean, there's some people. Hey, we're going to be going hungry here for long.
Exactly.
We're going to be out in the streets because they've got the working people in this country competing with 30 cents an hour Chinese, 30 cents an hour India, and $4 a day Mexican. We're going to be out in the street, man. It's coming.
Yeah.
We're headed for the cellar. For some reason, the plan's out to reduce this country to third world, and it's well underway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's absolutely just no doubts in this picture. And so if you're laying your whole heart into the foundation of that you're going to have money in the future, I mean, maybe you can make a little bit this year, but then, you know, get ready. Because the whole system's about to crash and burn. The Amero is already in mint. It's already been printed. You can go Google it and see it. You know, the Amero is out. The dollar is going. It's gone. I mean, the Canadian money's worth more than $1. All right, one last call here. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. You sound a little down.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask you about that disease in the United Kingdom, the UK.
All right. I'm going to answer you off the air there. Okay, let's cut the number there. No more time for calls. Sorry, guys. Yeah, aren't I a bundle of joy? Like, yay, Freeman's on. He's talking about death and destruction. Yeah. I mean, to me, this just seems the most obvious ploy. Now, many of you have been feeling the symptoms of these chemtrails. You may call it allergies, but I'll tell you, the moment I got back into America, now there are no chemtrails in Mexico or Central America. None. I got plenty of pictures and there's no chemtrails. Not even any jets, actually. I saw no aviation at all. But as soon as I got back here, I mean, those trails were so heavy. They were so thick. And immediately I started to get that blissful lethargy again. I talked about this on the show back last month. And this idea that they might be dispensing like Prozac or something to that effect in these chemtrails as an aerosol really seems viable to me because of the feeling, because of the symptoms that I get. Now,
all of a sudden I'm just blissfully lethargic, lying around the house. I hadn't even smoked anything, and I'm just feeling all, oh yeah. And I know that it's these trails. And then the very next day, what we'll have is sinus pressure, sinus headaches, and just pain, and the achy joints, and the achy lower back. And just this feeling of I don't want to do anything. And this is a campaign. We are being dusted. We are being gassed every single day with these things. And whether or not they're there just to manipulate the weather or alter radio frequency waves for HARP technology, or if they are also there to cause these type of symptoms in us. Definitely the ingredients in chemtrails. Now, if you haven't seen them now, this is the part that's generally most astounding to me, is the fact that people don't see them. I've been talking about chemtrails for 10 years, almost 12 years, and I still meet people every day that go, oh, what do you mean? I've not seen these. And then, of course, you just walk outside and, well, you see that big X over our head? Oh, I've never seen that before. Talking about these things for a decade. Come on, catch up. And the ingredients in these things, like the barium and the aluminum. Now, barium makes you show up on radar. Aluminum makes you an antenna for these electromagnetic frequency waves. They are absolutely controlling our very vibration, our very emotional state. And they are doping us up and then accelerating, causing anxieties. And these very symptoms of the flu-like symptoms are due to this heavy metal poisoning. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying that I know exactly, but I looked into barium poisoning and found that the symptoms I suffered and almost died, or at least I thought I was dying from, were identical to barium poisoning, from the anxiety, the fluctuation of the heart. Much of it felt very much like a heart attack. The numbness in the arm, and then the flu-like symptoms, the achy joints and pains. All of this stuff is coming from those trails. And this I have just databased over a course of a long time. And so for me, it's once again, just like predicting W and predicting 911, this is a no-brainer. This is chemical warfare being used against us. So it's entirely possible, because, these guys aren't stupid, that they could bring about flu-like symptoms without even actually having a virus. Because back in the late 90s, when the chemtrails began, and the stuff was actually falling into people's yards, they would find this spidery web-type substance in their front yard, and when they touched it, they got flu-like symptoms. Next thing you knew, the news was saying, well, we're having a flu-like symptom epidemic. No virus, but everybody's got flu-like symptoms. Now, go look at barium symptoms and see if they're not flu-like symptoms. So it's entirely possible that they don't really want to release a virus, They don't want to kill themselves. And so it might all be just a big smoke and mirrors act. Thousands of people died in 9/11. And that's an atrocity and a horrible thing. For them, it was a stage performance. For them, it was a simple act. So for them to do this to us is nothing. And if a few thousand people drop dead and it scares us all into getting the chip, then they're all like gung-ho. The true purpose of them wanting us all chipped and the true purpose of their agenda is yet to be discovered. There are many clues, many of them we've been discussing over the years on this show. For me, it goes extraterrestrial. And that's when it always, people go, whoa, wait, can't listen to Freeman anymore. He's got a lot of great stuff, but then he goes into this magic and these ETs. But for me, that's where the story just initially lies, and we'll definitely get more to that. So what we're looking at now is that we have this damn spell that's been cast upon us by these magicians. They manufacture our very realities, including our language, our nationality, our government style, and then they use all of these globally to pit and control mechanisms that cause the center, So the Hegelian dialectic, the cause, the problem, offer the solution, the twin towers, you know, these are their ways. And so what we're looking at is not a system that's, oh, it's America versus Iraq. No, I mean, the shock and awe is a Hebrew word that is in conjunction with the Freemasons. A Freemason would ask himself, what is the shock and awe? And it's the Shekinah, you know, as you would say in Hebrew. I hope I get that somewhat close. These are all contrived ceremony, magical ceremonies. They have nothing to do with politics. Saddam Hussein, claiming to be Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated, has nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So, start to return and turn this picture around, recognize who our leaders are and that they have a false agenda, that their agenda has nothing to do with the well-being of you, and hopefully we can start to quit and stop serving this system. And hopefully we will start to redirect our intentions towards a new paradigm. And instead of directing our attention into saying, well, I'm going to make a bunch of money, we can direct our intention to say, I'm going to make the world a better place. I'm going to focus on family. I'm going to focus on tribe. And to my tribe there at the house, I just want to say to you, my Ganoa. And you guys have a great night. See you next week.